All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming along today. I'm hoping you've all had a good feed. There is more food out there. Please take some home with you. We don't like to see waste. Just want to thank you that it's our third event for this year, the breakfast, which we're looking forward to. I'd like to introduce Brett. A couple of things just beforehand. Exit's right there, you can see it also. Housekeeping's there. There is toilets outside, but I'm sure we'll be all too enamoured to move. What else was I going to say? We've got... I'll leave it till last, sorry. All right, let me introduce Brett to you. With a career spanning over 35 years, Brett Canét-Gibson is a seasoned image maker, writer, musician and communicator in photography, graphic design and visual arts. He has worked extensively in the print media, design and entertainment industries and has received international, national, local portrait and editorial awards. Canét-Gibson has been exhibited in major international photographic competitions in France, USA, UK, Malaysia, India, the Netherlands and of course Australia. His work is on display in the West Australian Museum and included in the State Library's Permanent Archive Pictorial Collection. We're both in there.
Yeah.
Cool. Which aims to cover and preserve all aspects of WA's history and stories. Canét-Gibson's work is held at the National Portrait Gallery in Canberra, the Museum of Art and Art Gallery of New Norcia, the Perk Tucker Gallery and in private collections. Please give us a warm welcome to Brett Canét-Gibson.
Thank you. It's always weird to hear all that sort of stuff come out because you just keep working and you go on to the next thing. Very honoured to be asked to do this, and I don't normally do things like this. I've only done 3 or 4, so if I sound nervous, I am. But we'll go through. What I normally do is start my day, I thought we'd start this day with, is I get up and meditate. So if we'd like to do just a little bit of a 5-minute mindfulness meditation. So there's me. So what we'll do is everybody, if you've got any things in your lap, which I can see, or just to pop that off, both feet on the ground, and then just relax, sit up nice and straight, don't slouch in your chair. Hands just into your lap, either way, you can have it on your knees or just relax. Eyes closed and sitting up nice and tall. Awesome. And just take a deep breath in through the nose. And breathing out. And just feel the sensation of your feet on the ground. Do you want some water? That's good. And breathing in again. And breathe out. Feel the sensation of your butt into the seat. And your back against the chair. And a deep breath in. And out. And when thoughts come up as you're breathing in and out, just witness them come up, have awareness, and just let it pass. Don't think about anything. Don't latch on. And continue to breathe deeply in. Feel your belly rise. And then just breathe out at your own pace. And breathing in. And breathe out. And all those worries and stresses that you had on driving in here or getting up this morning, getting the kids to school, or business worries, you've got to get back to editing. As they rise up, just let them go. Just be aware of the air coming in through your nostrils, and how's that feel on the tip of your nose? Is it cold? Is it warm? And as you breathe in, feel the air go down into your lungs and your belly come out. And don't worry what you have to do after this. Just be present in this moment. If you feel any pain in your shoulders or in your back, in your knees, breathe into that spot. Just concentrate the breath to go into that spot and feel it dissolve. Breathing in. And breathing out. And as we finish this meditation up, as you come out, open your eyes gently and just relax in and feel how your body feels in the chair and how your mind is at the moment. Awesome. So that's how I start my day every day. Not with a guided meditation like that, but I sit in a Zen meditation called Zazen, with eyes open and just complete awareness. And I try to take that into my work as well. So every day I wake up, I do that, and then I play the guitar to get my mind ready to go, and then I start my work and sit at the desk. So basically, when we balance our head and our heart, we find our voice. And it comes across, I think, more of a balance. I think Cartier-Bresson said something about in alignment with the head, the heart, and the voice in one thing. Sometimes you've got more head, sometimes you've got more heart. But in the middle of those two is your voice, and that's where you find it. Once you align those two, this happens. And I found that out when I was doing my work, that the better that I was grounded, the better the work was, and the better I was able to deal with everyone else around me that was asking for things. You know, if you're working too hard, doing too much work, you can handle it a bit better. Yeah. I know I was talking to Craig out there, and I gather that Craig uses surfing as that method to go out there and fitness and well aware and connected to the universe. So most people probably know me, and I'm always surprised that people know my work, because I don't associate, that's not the right way to say it, but I don't usually circulate in these circles because I stay out in my own little universe. So I started 10 years ago, I started doing a thing called Portraits from the Pavement, which was portraits on the street with daylight and a background, and I'd just go and meet strangers. So I'd walk out there and meet people, and then photograph portraits. So this work, I had an idea 10 years ago, almost to the day, that if I wanted to go out and shoot portraits, I go out to the people and not have the people come to me. I go out and just basically, see someone that I like to look at and photograph, and then I'd meet them. Jessica was the first portrait that I took in Guildford one morning. I went out, it was raining, and I saw Jessica with her boyfriend at a cafe because we were all sort of huddled in from the rain. Had all my stuff, little backdrop and all that stuff, and then worked up the courage and went and spoke with both of them, and that's the first portrait that I did in this series, and that ended up in the National Portrait Gallery and magazine covers and stuff, and it went sort of, I was taken by surprise of how many people got on board with this work. So following through on this thing, then I sort of got inspired to do that, and I kept moving on to these portraits. Trevor Jemison, he is an actor and a dancer and a storyteller. Most of these images here will be either from finalists in competitions. I was surprised that everything I took and put into a competition got in the final. Riley was another portrait that I took on the street, and that ended up in Head On and People's Choice Award. A lot of my work seems to get People's Choice Award, I think because they're so simple. They're just faces, really. I take away, and if anyone's heard me talk before, you've probably heard all these stories, but I take away it's usually black shirt, black background, take away jewelry or anything that can date or recognise people, and then I just concentrate on the eyes and go from there. So I use the city as my casting agency and the Sidewalk as my studio. So I go out and ask people to be photographed. And most people think, oh, how do you do that? And they always go, how do you approach people? And I don't know if people do that here, strangers, but you just ask them and people say yes, or they say no. So you know the outcome. You either got a yes or a no. So you just be friendly and say, would you like to have your portrait taken? And that's what happens. And we go from there. Like there's a little, does anyone work on the street like this in the audience? Yeah. And that's the hardest bit is the courage to get up. And some days I used to go, I can't do this. I can't front people today. So I would do landscapes or still lives, or write some poetry, or write some stuff. So basically today's prezzo will be about 6 bodies of work, and it's all personal work, by the way. 6 bodies of work that I've done over the last decade. From portraiture, landscapes, illustrative design, illustrations, poetry. So you'll see a wide range of stuff that I work on. The other thing that I was going to say that I should have said at the start, I think I prefer this as more of I used to do a thing, and I'm about to start again, a thing called Walk and Talk, where I walk with artists and discuss where they're at and how they're going and any problems and issues, and it was fantastic. So for me to stand up here and talk to someone, I need something coming back. So if you have any questions or want to say anything, yell it out, the more the merrier. Jimmy I met on the street, the same sort of thing. You might know this guy. John, I got talking to John at Team Dig, and I said, I'd love to shoot a portrait of John, and we met outside the library and took a portrait. That portrait became, I don't know if you guys have heard of lens culture. A series of my portraits became a finalist in, I think, 3 years ago. And John was the lead portrait that he used, and then it went into the Guardian and all that sort of stuff. So John was over the moon with that, as John is. Heath, the same thing. He's an actor that I saw on TV and then put a call out on Facebook and found him and went round to his place and shot in his backyard. that's in the National Portrait Gallery. They acquired that. I was also a finalist at Head On in 2022, I think it was. Mistura, once again, this same sort of thing. I think that these images are so simple, and you're all photographers and at a certain level, that I feel that anyone in this room can take these photographs. And it's not hard. The hard part is actually going out and doing it and being there and motivating yourself to go out and do that and approach people that you wouldn't normally approach or associate with. I don't mean that in a negative way, but to talk to. And I think that's a big skill that we as photographers, we communicate very well visually, and sometimes we don't have that skill. I know I certainly don't, and I had to push myself to go out there and keep doing it. And it can get you down.
Brett, can I ask you, how many of the people you approach want to hear from you about your credentials or your authenticity?
Yep. This is not it. I've got this for a different thing coming up. Richard, isn't it? Richard, I worked out very quickly that if you carry a folio, Instagram, I started off with Instagram first and showing people. Once they saw my work, it was all good. And then you say what you're going to do with it, and then you do that. And I I keep telling people I talk to, I say, do what you say you do. And because then what it does is it stuffs it up for the next guy that follows you in, and then all of a sudden, oh, I'm not a photographer. And then something bad happens. So what I do with these, I photograph, I say it's for the National Portrait Prize. And over the 10 years, I've really just set myself, because I don't work commercially with this, it's all personal work. So I'd go out, okay, I know that National Portrait Prize is coming up, I need to go out and photograph so many people. So I do that, and I tell them, and then I send them a copy, and I say, is this one all right? And we go from there. I don't think the only problem I've ever had is with a niece who I shot years ago, and she didn't want her photo taken because she'd move on from there. She didn't want me to display it, so I had to pull it out of an exhibition, which caused a little bit of a hassle. But that's what you do, because it's only a photograph, yeah? Tiffany, I saw on the street, I was driving past, and I saw her having coffee with a girlfriend, and swung by, and most people say yes. Back in this day, because this is probably 6 years ago maybe, I didn't get them to sign anything straight up. But now I do. A lot of prizes need that now, so I go back and find the frame I'm going to use. And I'm only after one frame too, by the way. I only shoot for, if I go out for a day and get one frame, I'm a happy man. And then I send the file that they're going to use, that I'm going to use, and then I put a release in there as well, saying if you're happy with that, sign away.
Did you ever give them a print of the photo?
Never a print. Well, that's a lie. I gave Heath one, a framed one, for his mum, and then I gave Bodie, who I don't think I've got in here, I gave a print for his mum. It's always the mums. It's always the mums. And she saw, she didn't even know. Bodie told his mother about it, but she was driving past Fitzy's, and all the portraits are up there. Right, on that window. I don't know if you've seen it. Paul put them up there with all those things, and she was driving past and went, that's bloody Bodie. Right, so, yeah. A lot of these things that'll pop up in here is pulled out of my walk and talks that I did. Raquel used to walk and talk with me, which was fantastic, up at Kings Park. We had a great time. Lynn nearly killed me. She said, Brett, let's go up Jacob's ladder. I said, sure, Lynn. She was way up there, and I'm going, God. But all the answers that we need are actually out there presenting themselves to us. I do a thing called Street Wisdom, which was started in London, where you do if you've got issues, you have a group of people come together, and then we do like a meditation and a question, and then we walk out into the street, and then you pick up on all the signals that are coming through. This one came to me when I was up in Kings Park, and you see on Facebook and you see everywhere that people are stuck in trying to, I need that to do the work, I need this to do the work, I need to be here to do the work, I need that camera, I need that lens, I need this, I need that. And it's bullshit. All you got to do is get up and go and do it, right? So keep weeding your needing. Every time I go out in nature and walk around, I see that. So it reminds me of these things. So these little quotes or little phrases that I pop up throughout here, it's all my recognition to be mindful when I go into an environment, to see what's being presented, to be open to what is actually here and coming towards us. So now we move on to the next book. Now, all this work runs, it's like this. So I was doing the portraits, and there was so much more to what was happening in my life. So I started to do a personal diary. This was an exhibition. I didn't intend it to be an exhibition. It was just my own personal journal, really. So I shot portraits, but then I would go home and how I felt about the day or what I saw, and then marry up images and words and poetry and still lives and landscape. So I had a more holistic, more complete picture of what or the person I saw or my own feelings. So a lot of the words are quite abstract. A lot of the words that I don't actually understand what I wrote. So when people read them, you can take on to what you want. At the same time that I started photography study and I started meditation, almost within the same thing. So at 25, when I went back to study, I was reading On the Road by Jack Kerouac. He talked about Zen Buddhism. I went and found a book about it, and then that was it. It was like reading my own words back to me. So then I started meditating. So both of these, my art practice, my being, is all tied up in the same thing. So, and I think meditation and photography has got the same two things. When you're there, you have to be aware. So there and aware is the only thing. So if you're in this environment, you're aware of this environment. If I go out here, you're aware of that environment. So these things are it's almost like a Zen koan. It doesn't really have to make any sense. It's just the feeling that you get from them. So as you read these things, listen to your thoughts. See how you feel. And it's okay for you to sit there. Like our thoughts will keep popping up, and then we'll attach onto something, and then we'll ruminate, and all of a sudden, 2 minutes go past, and you think, what did that guy say? He's up there rambling on about something, and then you catch up, and then you think of something else. Oh shit, did I lock the front door? And then that goes on, and then you think, oh, if we get robbed and all that sort of stuff, and then you go away, and that rumination is what is whirring in your mind, and that's where the anxiety comes in, right? So when you're projecting forward out of your environment here, out of your presence, you're actually not here. You're somewhere else, and we live elsewhere most of the time. So most days, our thought is caught between is and ought. This is this isn't that, and that's a dualistic mind. And then I ought to be doing that, I ought to be doing this. So then you're caught, you're not actually present. And I think when we photograph, and when I say we, I'm talking about myself, we're not really present. We're here, we're mindful. We may hear the autofocus go beep, beep, and it's in, but you're also thinking, okay, I've got to move this person here, I've got to move that. When was the last time you photographed and you felt the weight of your camera? Or you felt the breeze? Or you heard something? Like all that sort of dissolves away. And that's what makes photography close to meditation. It's like the meditation that we did on the breath is a concentration meditation, and photography is a concentration art. where we concentrate on one object or within the frame, and the rest of the world dissolves, and that's why we enjoy it. Like if you go out and photograph just for yourself and walk around, and you get that if you're working in front of your monitor, I can imagine Susie gets trapped in that because of all her intricate work, right? She would be there for hours just sitting there going, this is good and who cares what else is happening around me? And that's the beauty of what we do. I think that's the enjoyment. My boy's just about to get his PhD at Curtin in photo media, and I keep saying to him, enjoy this thing here, be mindful of it. And that's where we need to be, right here, and be present. So when we're caught between this isn't that, that should be black, that's white, you're bouncing around between two things that aren't a reality. When I was a student, black and white, back in film days, last century, I used to love the darkroom, and I was a black and white printer in Sydney for a while, and one day, as you do when you first started, I actually put the paper in the wrong way, and I printed through the back of the paper, and I couldn't work out why the exposure was so long and there was nothing there, and you put it in the tray, and but then I discovered that it made it look like 1850. So then I started to print all my work through the back of the paper, and then put things on the baseboard, scratches and things, and then they would come back into the paper, right? So I spent almost 2 years of my student life printing through the back of the paper, trying to be, Nadar or Talbot in 1850 walking around with my Canon AE1. So this work here is, and the further we go on, you'll see my work change because I've changed. This is a remnant, to me, it reminds me of that work that I used to do. Stained, it's sepia, it's ripped, it's torn, it's from there, from that period. Poetry is about my stepdad, my father-in-law that passed away. And then I draw in found ephemera, and it all has a personal reference to that. So like I said, this is all personal work. So it's all for me, really not for you, but hopefully you can get something out of it. Scott Patrick Mitchell is a poet in Perth, quite a established poet. Hence, he's a performance poet, slam poet. And then I write about my experience of doing that or coming away from that, or when I sit there and edit it and look at that. Peter Cheng is a filmmaker, and I said to Peter, I got to photograph you, I love the way you look, but I turned up and I knocked on the door and he opened the door like that. I'm going, today's a good day. Who walks around the house like that? And he's a really sweet man. That body of work was picked up by Linton and Kay, and they had an exhibition at Mandoon. And I've been working, I remember as a student, and Goddard the Fiddies was the big gallery here. I thought, if I ever get representation in the gallery, I've made it. It'll be, I'm a legend, right? So I did that, and then with all this good publicity or good love that comes in, the sunny side of the mountain, of course, there's a shady side, and some people don't like it, and some people are quite vocal about it. So the exhibition was up, and then I got a little bit of blowback from it. So I pulled back, and that was 2022, 23, and I really haven't done any photography since then, because I just went, I need to reassess this. So I pulled myself out of doing my own personal work and went into other things, which I'll show you. But within your words reside wreckage or remedy. You choose. This came to me when I was walking with that girl up there. And I had a thought that the way we talk to ourselves is just as dangerous as, or more so, than the way other people talk to us. Like we can take those words, but would you talk to yourself the way Or would you talk to someone else the way you talk to yourself? Your mental chatter. And it's a really dangerous thing that we go, we're not good enough, I can't do that, I'm too tired here, which is not the right word, manipulate the person into what you want. And my work is so simple. It really is, it's just a person or a leaf I'm a very basic photographer. And there's only so many angles you can shoot people from my point of view. Front on, side on, profile, or three-quarter, profile, back of the head. So I just rotate people and find where they're comfortable, and then that's what it is.
Brett, do you prompt emotion?
No.
You just give them to stand
Yeah.
there, you don't
No.
guide?
No, I don't guide anything seeing. I just, and I think, just, you know your own process, you don't really know your own process because you're doing it. I've noticed that when you do get people and you're photographing them and you're holding them in that position, if you just stop talking and let them relax into the thing and then just wait a little bit longer when they expect it to be taken, that's when something happens. There's some change, some distance that collapses between you and the subject. And that's my goal has always been for me to dissolve. If here's the subject and that's me and you're the viewer, I try to get out of the way. And that dissolving thing is some days you can do it, some days you don't. I don't know how to do it, but some days you get it. And even saying this, I sound like I know what I'm doing. I don't. Right? And I've got to be honest with that because it's just, you just go out there and that's what you do. So I know certain people, certain angles, 45 and looking over this way, will get a good result, but it may not be a great result. So then the magic of whatever happens, and we all know we've been there. And once again, this is personal work. I don't have a client. I don't have a deadline. If I go out and shoot 5 portraits and they're crap, no one sees them. You're only seeing the good bits. You're not seeing all the rubbish. In my mind, that doesn't cut it. So, you know, I'm dressed up here with my Sunday bests. I'm my best behaviour. And that's the lie of it somehow. So this is what I learnt from doing that body of work. You stay married to the mystery. Because once you court certainty, you are lost to limits and loathing. If you think you know what you're doing, the work is going to be rubbish. If you stay open, and it's almost like, and I go back to my Buddhist training, is beginner's mind, you don't know, you're aware, you're present, let's see what happens, then that's when something transpires. Once you go in there, and I can't speak commercially, I used to do editorial work, and I used to have sort of almost free rein to do what I wanted to do. But I never had, see, I'm colourblind, and that caused I couldn't go into commercial work because I remember one commercial job I did and someone was, you know, we need to match a school shirt that's teal. And I'm going, well, that's close. And people look at me going, that's not. Right? Or I had a pair of tracksuit pants that I wore for years. And I said to my wife, I said, Yvette, where's my grey trackies? And she said, grey? You don't have any? I said, yes, I do. The ones I wear. She said, they're green, Brett. It's like Kermit the Frog. I went out and bought them. So every time, hence. Right? So I'm colourblind. So I couldn't go into that commercial realm. So I went more the art side of it where I could have a blue pair or a green person, you know. So, but those limits that you use certainty, when I talk about that, it is all from personal work. And I don't know how, you know, once again I was talking to Craig out there and he's, you know, slaving like a dog doing all these wonderful cookbooks and what he does. So I don't know how that relates to you. But in my personal world, once I get stuck in like, I know what I'm doing, I'm just going to go out and do a portrait, it doesn't work. You miss the thing. You're not focused on it. So that's what that means to me, is like if you stay married to the mystery, just be open to it. Be open to the experience. Be open to walking in and seeing what happens. You know, sometimes we need to, you've got a shot list and you've got 2 hours, and I'm looking at Ryan, and you've got to do this, and you've got to cover this, you've got to do this person, you've got to get that angle, you get a wide view, you get the close-up, you get the person doing the speech and all that sort of stuff. You know, where's the mystery? The mystery is I assume that each lighting thing is different, each venue is different, each angle is different, something's happening with the camera, all those other things that pros can navigate without anyone knowing. And does everyone shoot personal work? All the time? That's where the growth is, I think. That's why we got into this. When we started, I remember walking around the streets, just learning how to photograph, and there's work coming up, learn how to photograph a sidewalk with a bit of dirt on it. How does that work? What's that texture? What's that light do? Oh, that's a great shot. Oh, it's backlit. He's got no face. Great. You know, all those things that we have that experience of, and that's where experience of, when young guys come in, they don't have that experience. Stay married to the mystery, folks. Okay, so how are we going for time? Am I too slow, too fast?
It's only just 11:15, right? So that's still plenty.
Okay, so I did of that work, and there's a book here too if you want to pass around and have a look. Come and have a look. That's the Meander Tristan Orr book. I ended up doing 30 odd pages, designed the whole thing, shot the whole thing. It took me years to do that. And at the end of it, personal work too, it's almost like, at the moment, let me jump into this. At the moment, I'm almost finished therapeutic photography, which I'm going to run classes for and stuff. I've been doing this work for myself for decades and didn't realise. It's my way of understanding the world, understanding me and what's happening. So when that work there was shown at Team Dig in about 2017, I think Ben put one up in the old Team Dig before he moved, not the bunker. Someone came up to me and said, "What is this photo about?" And I said, "Well, what do you think it's about? It's up to you." And she said, "No, it's not good enough. What is it about?" And she kept going on, and I didn't know this person. And it got me thinking. So I retreated. I live in the Swan Valley. When I came over from Queensland, I lived in Guildford. When I came to Guildford, I thought I was home. It felt just so comfortable. Excuse me. And I love the river. When my editorial work got harder and harder to do and there wasn't any money, like 40 cents a word that I was writing for the West, and you get to take a photo and you've got to dev the film, you've got to print the film, you've got to sit there and write it, and you end up with $150 for a week's work, and you just go, how can I live, right? So I ended up retraining and went into aged care as a therapist, dementia specific. And on the river in Guildford, and I lived in Bassendean. I walk every day in the river, and the river was like a spiritual place for me in Guildford. So when that happened, like coming here today, I came through Guildford. So when that happened, I go to the river, and for 7 years, I went there in winter and autumn on a 2-kilometre bend from Lilac Hill down through the bridge and around to where the nursing home is at Fish Market Reserve. Just that for 7 years, up and down, and photograph all these things. Trying to work out me, what I was doing, why I was doing it. And I would go in the morning, and I was looking at a lot of Zen calligraphy, I was looking at a lot of abstract painters, and also it was almost at the takeoff time where everyone was starting to go up in the air and photograph down. Tony Hewitt, Chris Saunders, all those guys that do it so well, right? And I thought, I can't do that. What can I do? So I applied it. So I'd walk along the banks and then photograph into the things and make little abstract images that then spoke to me. So then the sun shares the surface with serpents was born. So when I was walking around, I'd see little bits of wood coming up. And when you're there by yourself, your mind just goes. It's magic in winter along Guildford River. So I'd see little things and they'd catch you out of the corner of your eye and you think, what is that? Is that a, And then I realised that what was happening is I was projecting onto that. So what I was seeing was actually in my mind. All these negative thoughts, all these bad experiences were coming up. And then I go, and also because I was on the river, I'd start thinking about the nursing home and all the people that had passed away and the people I sat with as they died. So this body of work is highly personal. And you know when you do work and you put it on social media to get response, and that's what we're after. We want people to go, yeah, you're great. So I put this work up and people just don't respond to it. They just don't see it. And I go, I understand why, because it's for me. It's personal work. About 2 weeks into the project, I was photographing, I'd come home and I'd open it up and I'd look at the work and go, this is not what I'm seeing. Well, I'm missing something here. I'm just not getting it. And I think what was happening was, what I was talking about before, I wasn't present. I thought I was, but once the thought came up, I was 10 years prior in the nursing home. I was a little kid on the Gold Coast who's about to get hit by a cyclone with my mum. And my brother's in Brisbane. So I wasn't present. So every time I'd come in, I made up a little mantra for myself. And I'd be present. And I'd come back and be present. And the images started to get there. One day I was standing on the bank across from the seminary. I don't know if you know where that is in Guildford. Barker's Bridge, I think it's called. While you're photographing, you sort of dissolved away and you can't see the world. I still got an old Nikon D3X that I bought 14 years ago that I still trawl around. It still makes magic images. And I could hear a plane. And I was photographing this scene. And all of a sudden, right in the middle of where I was photographing, popped a plane. And that is a reflection of an upside down plane because it's underneath the flight path. As I was photographing that flopped in and I went, shit, that's like my thoughts. They're coming across and they're going out. They're coming across and they're going out. And I got it. And from that day on, my whole work changed. For some reason, it triggered something in me to be able to see that. Now, that's not Photoshop. That's a real thing. And you can tell because it's a little bit soft in here because I'm going, shit, there's a plane, fuck. And you chase it. And these images just represent that things coming up in your mind all the time. Where am I? I can't be doing this. Why am I sitting here? I wish this guy had stopped talking now. I've got to go and edit. All those things. And these, I saw this. And as photographers, we know that it doesn't actually look like this. You go back, and because you're sort of in the flow of the river, you're in the flow of the stream, you photograph things and move on. Then 2 days later, a week later, you might come back to the same spot and then walk past it and realise, shit, that's that photo I took. And those little sticks are about this big. Where here they look, that reminds me of Loch Ness Monster as a kid, right? So these all represent things to me. As I said before, abstract painting, calligraphy, and that's why I've got little things that look like an abstract painting. And this is the lesson I learned. Each and every point is a portal to presence. Enter here, enter here, enter here, enter here. So at any point, we can pick this up and look at it. And if you concentrate on it and see what it is and see the light falling on it, see it's black, how's the light, there's your hand, I can see people behind me. You're here, you're present. You're not anywhere else. So once you're present, you can see what's being presented to you. I think everyone who's ever picked up a camera has got a photo like this. You think? Yeah. Once again, I was looking at a lot of Miro, the painter, and that little shape with little lines reminded me of that when I saw it. So then I focused in on that and just sitting there and trying to balance it out. Any questions? I feel like I'm talking too much. No? The other thing that I noticed too is how things change when we don't know they're changing. Everything is impermanent. You go to the river, and because I went for 7 years to the same little stretch and walked up and down, all of a sudden you realise that bank's eroded a bit more. Where's that log gone? Things move, where if you're just driving past and you don't see it, you won't realise it. So if that's the case, everything is like that. Everybody is like that. You know, talking to Mark before, years ago I had a hair. Where's that? Right? You're gone. So everything's changed, but we're not seeing it. We're not really aware of it. We're not here. We're somewhere else. We're thinking about something else. So we're spinning in anxiety or going back in depression. We're not present. And to remain in that spot is so hard. So hard. Like today, and putting this together when Seng said, do you want to do this? I said, yeah, sure. Why not? And then I wrote a text, yeah, good. And then went, shit, now I've got to do it. Right? Now I've got to talk and stand up. It's not a natural environment for me. This is my environment. And these are just simple observation photographs. There's nothing special about them, but they're special to what they needed for me. And they mirror what I was thinking. And then it's almost like a transportation across somewhere else. So after 7 years of walking around in that river, thoroughly enjoyable. You know, I got to see birds, and then you hear a bird call, and another one calls over here, another one calls over here, and you realise that these guys are actually talking to each other, and you're sitting there making little photos, and you think you're the centre of the universe, and then there's a whole lot of life going on. Pelican lands in front of you, and look at that thing. You know, one morning I was down, and I saw this, and I stopped, and I photographed it, and I looked through the camera, and as soon as I photographed certain angles, I come back and I got that, and I went, that's it. I don't need to come to the river anymore. Whatever I needed to work out in my own being, I transitioned through to another thing. This image represents that to me. I don't need to show all the other images. That's the one that did that, and I hope you guys have in your personal work something that does that for you. I don't know what it is about this image. I can't tell you. It's everything that I wanted in balance, in the blackness of the shadow in the morning, a little bit of sky in there, things coming out. To me, that's one of the most I'm proud of to have as mine to look at, because it just says to me exactly why I went there, to work out, to unlock that. So, how wonderful the turning. It wasn't until release that I understood capture. It wasn't until I got to that point that I moved out of that mental state that I understood that mental state wasn't anything that anyone else had put on me. I'd put those barriers up on myself. I trapped myself in that by my thinking. You can't do that, Brett. You can do that. You're not allowed to do that. You're no good, Brett. Do that. Photograph that. Write that. That guy's not right. And all that sort of stuff, all that mental talk, I came to this, that it's in us. We don't actually, I can say to somebody, oh, that photograph's not good. But that's that person's opinion. That's not what it is. So when you look at a photograph, you're not seeing the photograph. You're hearing your own talk. How many times have we gone to an exhibition or in a gallery and gone, that's not really good, or I thought it was going to be better and stuff. You're not actually seeing the photograph. you're hearing your own thoughts. So that transition that we need to go into that other mode by staying there and being present and seeing it and just being, I really don't like this word, like 2 words, mindfulness and creativity. I think everything's creative, we're all creative, there's no special creativity. We just need to learn ourselves to plug into that, to enter the stream and allow it to take us along. What stops us from doing that, I think, is the fact that we put blinkers on. We block ourselves into what we're doing. We hold ourselves into what it is we think a portrait should be, or a photograph should be, or, you know, what I need to put in this competition to win, what I need to get recognition, or what I need so people will like me. That's why I started Anthem Comps 10 years ago, to get that recognition that I knew I could do that, but I need someone else to tell me. Well, I've got to this point now and they told me that and I still feel the same. So what's the problem? I remember walking, one of the first big assignments I got was for Inside Sport. National mag, international it went as well. Perth Glory in their heyday, about 1998, last century again. And I was walking out in the oval and I was sort of photographing these things and all. And then for some reason I had this experience, out-of-body experience, that you're actually doing what you wanted to do when you started studying. You're doing a national team for a national mag, and people are walking around asking you and talking to you like you know what you're doing. And I'm going, okay, cool. But I stopped and I remember standing in the middle of the stadium and going, this is amazing. Sun, I remember the green grass, I remember the guys running around kicking the ball, and I was a sport kid at school. I was going to be a professional rugby league player and I broke my ankle at school and my career just went. So for me to do sport and art was like a perfect marriage for me. And then that experience of that staying in that position and just stopping and just seeing everything around and thinking this is what I work for was a wonderful experience for me. And I hope we all have that when we're out working. And you realise that, you know, you've worked hard to get to this point. You need to celebrate yourself to know that you are doing what you wanted to do. We forget that. You wanted to be photographers? Well, guess what? You are. Celebrate it. So this led on to, at the exhibition, I had a bit of blowback from this exhibition, from certain photographers, and it put me in a spin. I didn't expect it. It came out of nowhere. So I was sent into a little bit of a whirl. I stopped doing my walk and talks. My last one was with Raquel. And then I haven't really photographed a lot for the last 2.5, 3 years. There's some new work coming up later. And it changed the way I think. And I went in, so I started doing a diary. A thing called billowing. And I use the word billowing as it's how we think, our mind, flapping in the breeze. So billowing is when we think or we talk or we express, and it's all about self-expression. And that's what, and I do illustrations as well. So that's the front cover and the back cover. And this work gets quite abstract, but you will see through lines between the shapes and stuff that I was doing in the river into this work. This is done all in Photoshop. And I'd written poems and thoughts and all that sort of stuff. And these are opposing pages that go together. And they're full of just weird stuff. Yeah? So I thought, how do I be creative without using the camera? Because I've been, I was a musician for 10 years, and then I was a photographer, so I've got some sort of thing in my hand. So I move across and I'd sit there and write some stuff, and all the little quotes, all fears are ideas. All our fears are just an idea. When that sinks in, you just go, well, if it's an idea, I can change my idea. And you don't have to latch on to that idea. So all fears are ideas. So this work is, I don't know if you can read those from down there. And again, personal work, personal diary. So I spent a day on this page, right? And it says, I don't know if you can work out the crypticness of it, it says, make mistakes. And I think that's the beauty that we can do in our personal work. It allows us to push the boundary out a bit further. It allows us to fall over because no one's seeing it, no one's paying for it, there's no client, there's no constraints on it. So I wanted to make pictures with, still in Photoshop, and I worked out with the text and all that sort of stuff. I drew a line, must have pressed the wrong button, something happened, right? And then I started to work out how to do this. And then it sort of develops like that. And that's why the shroud of unknowing. And I look at this work like you guys really haven't seen this. I put it a little bit on Facebook, a little bit on Instagram maybe, but it's just my son, me and my wife have only seen this work. Eventually I'll put it out, but it's a fascinating process to me. Now this is another thing that I worked out from one of my walk and talks, is the Shoelace Sutra, which is done, undone, done, one. And here it is. There's your creativity, right? There's your blockage, but it's still one thing. So the anxiety and the blockage is part of your creativity. And we remove it out of what we're doing into a form of like, that's over there. But it's still part of your journey. The anxiety is much an inspiration as the good things. So the not or the done is part of the one thing. I like making up little things, if you can tell. So whenever I get that, I used to take this on walk and talks, and I'd give it to the person and how many knots you got? How many blockages have you got? And then they would tie it up, and then we'd work on that and undo that while they're thinking about it to pick the knot. A wet shoelace is a great thing because it's hard to get undone. So you've got to think. You've got to think a bit more, and you've got to pick it apart. You've got to move into it, and you can talk about it or express it, or you can go away and, pick up a stick and write a word in the sand. Express it. Once we get it out, once we make the implicit explicit, once we bring it out in a mirror and look at it, it becomes less scary. It's out of us. Bang, there it is. And that's what this work is. So the Shoelace Sutra is another thing. I've got other things too. I don't know if anyone's stuck on a body of work they're working on at the moment. I've had these things, these cards, Creative Whack Pack. Remember when Borders was in town? Remember that bookshop, Borders? Awesome. Used to go there and buy books and mags. I found these, never heard of it. And they're all little things, right? I'll hand them around. And what I do is if I'm stuck on something, I'm just sitting there trying to think, having a bit of a lull, I'll shuffle these and shuffle it lightly so one flies out. And then I pick it up and read it, substitute. Okay? So then I read the little thing, and then you think, well, how do I substitute an idea? It's got sell, sell, sell. It's a magic book. There's a book that goes with it. There's cards. If you're stuck, shuffle them up, pull one out, and it might help you. And they're just little things to shift your mind. I just saw a documentary on Brian Eno. And Eno used to make music and still does with all these cards. And he picks it up and he goes, he's doing music. Everyone knows Brian Eno, the record producer and musician, atmospheric musician. And he picks out a card and he'd be doing something. It says, slow. So what he does, then he'll go, okay, what does slow mean? Okay, I'll walk slowly to my guitar. I'm more interested in the seed. I'm more into the soil, into the nutrients, into the roots that go into there. I have a thing when I look at my work. Too long, Mark?
A little bit, but it's all right.
I can stop.
Like kicks out.
That your creative output is seed, root, shoot, and fruit. And a lot of the time we get stuck on fruit. So I look at my work and go, okay, where am I at my point here? Am I at the seed? What's the seed? The seed is doing this talk, which I'll go home and I'll think about something else. And that's what I want this to be. I was hoping for you guys just to be a seed. Just to walk away and pick out a little thing. And the other thing too, the little thing doesn't have to be positive. You can look at this work and what I'm talking about and go, that's not for me. That's a positive. That's going to propel you to do what you want to do. I'll skip through these. As you can see, the further I went on, that more abstract it got. There, and the other thing too is, I tried to make this work look like how thoughts are. We think something, we get it. 2 hours later, it might pop up. Someone else will say something. So I tried to entwine them. I tried to make them abstract. Sometimes we don't receive information. Sometimes we don't see it. So within all the stuff that's going on is kiss the chaos, caress the mess, and manifest it. So with all the stuff that's going on, all the negative thoughts, all the desires, the wants, and what you need is you can still make your work. How long do you want me to go for, Mark?
How's everyone feeling?
Good.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. You can talk for as long as you want.
All right.
Let them kick us out.
All right. So,
To a natural conclusion.
yeah. Nice. So over here, that says thought as trampoline. So I have a thing when I go out there and thoughts come up. Is this thought a trampoline or is this thought a tourniquet? Thought as a trampoline, thought as a tourniquet. Do you bind yourself? Are you stuck? Are you bound by something? Are you constricted by it? And sometimes thought as a tourniquet is a good thing. You might be thinking something and think, I can't say that. So, but I always go, try and use the trampoline. I'll move it because we've got some other stuff. That's another thing in here. All these things are hidden. It's like, this book is supposed to be, you pick it up, you turn it around, you look at it, you read a page, you got a little bit of word, you see a thing, and then it's almost like a creative diary journal thing, where that says proceed with presence. So just as you're moving through your day, be aware. While you're aware, chase your own tail. What story you got to tell? What work do you want to do? And you don't have to have a fully formed idea. It's just the beginning to jettison you into that, to make you move into the world of, I want to say this. Fuck, I haven't been out for ages, picked up my camera and gone into the city. Or I haven't been to the ocean. I'm not an ocean person, I'm more of a river person. But, I haven't been to Frio, or I haven't been on a trip. I haven't talked here. I'll do it. Chase your own tail. So you can see me transitioning out of using a camera into using other elements in Adobe. So I thought, why not? What is this Illustrator that's there, and you hit it sometimes and it pops up and you go, meh. So I want to work in Illustrator. So I started working, and then I was reading a book, an article of about a guy called Guy Debord, right, from the Situationists back in the 1950s. And they did a thing called psychogeography, where they moved through the environment. Most of them were on heroin or cocaine or something, right? But it became quite a political movement as well. And they would map out their city, their environment, and not be told, this is where you sit and have your lunch. This is where you catch the train. So moved through the environment and how it spoke to them. And it got me thinking how I moved through Perth City to photograph, how I moved through Sydney to photograph, and how I moved through the environment on the Gold Coast where I grew up. All right? So then I started to think about that, and I started to make maps. That is a map. That is a memory for me of going to football training as a kid. Okay? So it doesn't mean anything to you as that, but this is what this work is. So these are all maps, illustrations from my mind of sitting there and thinking, you know, when I went to school, what was that like? How did I get there? Both my parents were teachers. My mum I had in primary school. My dad I had in high school. I couldn't wag a day at school. Right? So how was that? You get in the car, you go. You ride when you get old enough, you ride to work, to school. So these are little points that, you know, through the oval, there was water. There's the school. Back there is a nursery that I did a week work placement at school, right? So all these things, I made little art out of maps of mind stuff. And there's words to go with this as well. There's prose to go with it as well. But I used to find this fascinating. To push these shapes around while you're thinking is back to that concentration meditation. That's back to working in these things. And it's also extending. So when I go out then, because this was running in conjunction with the river, or just as I was transitioning out of it, that the river work that I was seeing, all the shadows and the stains and the logs and the twigs, comes into this work of how the shapes fall. And I tried to make them as harmonious as it is, what's that Japanese term? Wabi-sabi? Is it? Yeah, is it? How everything is just falls. And when they sweep up, all the Zen guys, they sweep everything up. Lynn's just been in Japan, she'll be able to tell me. And then they'll leave a leaf there, like it's fallen down. And that then it's right. Or where the crack in the pottery, kinsagi or kinsigi? Yeah. Yeah, it's the beauty of that. So I tried to make these as harmonious and as balanced, and it could stand alone as a piece of art, or it can stand alone as a map to read where you are. There's Perth, right? That's me going into Perth and going up to 78 records, right? But that's what it is to me, and they all represent things like that. And I'll put this in just to show that we don't have to be stuck with our camera, and we don't have to be stuck with this is the way it should be, and we don't have to frame it like this and balance it out. We can do whatever we want. So jump in and do whatever you need to do. Okay, last thing, sorry. A photograph as a dead bird is the work I've been working on at the moment. And I've gone back to what I started when I first started studying at the Central Metropolitan College of Art and Design with TAFE. And to learn the camera, you get your roll of Ilford, HP4 or whatever it was, and you go out and photograph and you get back and it was underexposed or you devved it wrong. But I used to walk around Northbridge because the TAFE is right there. And I thought, I'd love to go back and do this now with the skill you have, but apply the same rules and the same intensity and attention to nothing the way that I would if I was photographing something. And then the nothing became something. Now that's opposing pages. So these are 2 pages, but they go like that. So, and then when I put this together, I looked at it and went, that's a really interesting thing because you can make up a whole other story about what they say. My intent was to have the viewer in the middle of that to work out what it is, and what you're thinking is not my photography, it's your thinking. So all these works are put together, so it's not about the actual image, it's about the gutter of the book and what you think when you're looking at it. And it's just walking around. It's the same as the maps, but it's just walking around and photographing, and we all do it, and they're very bland. and there's actually nothing in it. And if you put it on Instagram, you get one like and it's your mum. But, but it's so enjoyable for me to be able to out there and to mosey around and photograph all these things that pop up in front of you and be aware of what's happening in front of you. And they're not really, you might recognise some of these places. And so photography is a dead bird means that we as photographers, we go out like cats and catch something, kill it, take the life out of it and put it on the floor at the master's feet, which is our viewing public or the people we want to see it. So we get it, plop, and that's the photography is a dead bird. We do that, to me, photography, at my state where I'm in now, that's what photography represents to me. We actually go out and we take this thing and we plop it down, and then it's a dead representation of what's out there, or our experience, how we felt, what we did, why we're doing it. And it's amazing what you see when you walk around. And I keep saying this, these are bland images. But I'm approaching it in the same way that I would with anything else. So you give it the intention. So insight strides at the intersection of intuition and imagination. The intuition is when you're walking, I'm going to go this way. I'm not going to go that way. What's that? And then your imagination comes in and holds it all together. Once again, these are this way. I mean, you can read it as a whole thing. I don't know. I keep saying they're nothing images, but they really are. But it allows me to see what Perth is to me when I walk around. And the other thing too is, I think there's a quote the other day that I put on Facebook or something like, photography, we frame things, and once we frame something, we exclude something. So I photograph here, well, right there's another photograph, right there's one, and we all know that, and we frame for the best thing. So I don't know how I'm going to get beyond the point of that. 3 or 4 years ago, I said I want to make a living without having an instrument, and we'd come up with ideas and events that we do with my wife, and that's been a joy of not having to have something, just to come up with a concept and go, what about this? Great, let's do it. Money, good, let's do it. And I've sort of gone back here and I want to get beyond the camera somehow, but I don't know how to do that, because it's such a joy to do this. And you just walk around. The city is full of stickers, messages, phone numbers that people write. John, call me. I don't know if you've ever seen that, guys. It's a fascinating thing. It's fascinating to me. You see some amazing stickers. Right? What it means, no idea. There's a whole level of communication in the city that we don't see. And seriously, there is stickers and words. The cleverness of the stickers is phenomenal if you just pay attention to it all. We'll leave that one there. Okay, we're getting to the end, folks. I'm sorry. That pretty much sums it up to me. If you are stagnant, if you feel like you're trapped, you're not being yourself. And another word that I don't like is authentic. What is that? What does it mean? It makes me sad that you have photographers out there that are so good at their craft that feel so, lost is not the right word, but unsure. And we're sort of struggling and we're bobbing around in the ocean or drifting down the river without putting our oars in there, because we do. You got to this point, or I got to this point, we got to this point by doing the work that we love doing and seeing the way we see. So why don't we do that? Why don't we do that every day? Because things get in the way. How do they get in the way? We put them in the way. How do we get rid of it? by being aware of it. And it's really that simple. I stand up here talking like that, but I struggle every day with this. It's a constant thing that you've got to keep banging away at. Thing that I started just before Christmas, which was not a good time to start because everyone's time poor, money poor. But here we go. Come up with an idea. I saw an ad from Fred Hollows and I thought, wouldn't it be good if I got a community of photographers and start a page on Fred Hollows and see how many people we can give sight. $25 gives sight to a person. For $25, which is a cup of coffee and a lunch. Yeah? So I started this page and it's called The Sea of Humanity. That QR code goes there. I don't get any money out of this. If you want to put $25 in there, I've set a goal of $5,000. Even if you want to pass it on to someone, you don't have to do it now. You can do it in a year's time, 2 years' time, 10 years' time. Don't care. Just see how many people we can give sight. Why I started this is, our work is our seeing. Our life is our seeing. We don't have the ability to see how we're going to photograph. When I was a kid, up in Warwick, which is about 2 hours from the Gold Coast, my mum was born up there and we used to go up there, and her uncle, Uncle Johnny, and her mum's sister, which we call Chicky, they were blind. And every school holidays we would go up and, you know, as a kid you grow quickly. And we would go into their house and it was dark. And Johnny used to smoke a pipe and you could hear him in the corner going, right? But you could smell it. The smell of pipe smoke was fantastic. But you go in there and it was like to me it was like a magic act where you'd stand in front of them without making a sound and they'd feel your face and they'd go, that's Brett. And they'd always get it right, who my brother and I were, just by feeling our faces, right? And that, I think, for me, is why I became a portrait photographer, from those experiences. Hence this. If we can give somebody the ability to give sight, and you can, you can just put in $25. I'll put in what I've got from this experience into this today, and we can just help people. And I know we're all cash poor, and I know we've got commitments, but if we could possibly, and share it around, share this idea around. The more people we tell, the more people that we might be able to get there. And just for something, we don't know who we're helping, we'll just help. So that's the thing that I ask, if you're that way inclined, to jump on. If you're not, all good by me. Guess what? That's the end. Now, I must say that they were my notes for today, and I didn't talk to one of them. So my wife will just go, Brett, what are you doing?
What's your next book?
Well, yeah. Anyway, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I hope it's helped. I hope it's a seed. If it's not, that's okay too. Questions?
Your publications from that help you most?
Say that again.
Where can we purchase your publications that help you the most?
As in this work?
Yeah. Or the filter wine?
I don't sell them.
Okay, so they're truly unpriced.
Yeah. And when I did that exhibition, wherever Meander Trisnor is up there, there was people that was in the gallery, and people wanted to buy it. And I mean, that cost me. I got 3 made, and they were about $300 each. And to get that, like there's over 300 pages in there, and the hardcover and all that sort of stuff. I did take it to publishers, and they just said that's for late stage artists. You know, you're not Picasso, mate. That's me paraphrasing. They didn't say that to me, but that's the way I took it. And it's not. And that's the thing. I would like to get. I would be more inclined to put out billowing, because I think that's fascinating. Just as an art piece, I'd like to do an exhibition of that. But just as a piece where you pick it up and you read it and you read a word and then you go and it's meant to be, you pick it up and start at the back, you go in the middle, you do all that sort of stuff.
And you said you were going to do therapeutic photographic sessions?
Yes, yeah.
Is that in the pipeline?
Yes, it's in the pipeline. So I've got 7 weeks left. And it's really a fascinating thing. And it's, you know, the beauty of it, it's not about photography. We make images, but you can use your phone, and I think the phone is the way to go. Because as photographers, I want to do it with photographers or artists because I understand that life. I've been in it. But the more that we get caught up, and you see the class that I'm going through, and it's all around the world, all the photographers have got these images and this thought, and you can see the concept in it and all that sort of stuff. But the ones that give more insight into the person is someone with a phone that's got a picture of their foot with their dog and what it means to them. Instead of me, when, like the first one, the last one I did was, you know, I had a geometric shape of a cone. And if you light the cone this way, it's a triangle, but if you come down here, it's a circle, right? And you get a shadow. So it was all, I was playing on that of how people see me and how I see myself, right? And this whole construct and all this sort of stuff. And then you look at someone and go, and then they've got their dog, or, you know, they've got their kids smiling with an ice cream, and what this means and how it makes you feel. And you go, you don't need to be a photographer to do this. In fact, I started with the thought of like, you've got to produce good images, as in, you know, balanced and all that sort of rubbish. That I think gets in the way at this point. I think that it could change. Yeah, but I'll be doing that. It's fascinating. And we talk, I'm going to start up doing another thing in the city called Wander Ponder Picture Pros, which will walk around, take a picture, single frame, right? Look at what we've done and then write a story about what it means to you, which is, it's going to be a fascinating thing. And it's a journal thing, just for yourself. You don't need, we can share it, like the street wisdom thing where we go out and have a question and walk around and then come back and share it with the group. I think it's a personal thing. It should be fascinating, right? Yeah, just to get out and do things. More questions, please. Anyone? Any critique on the work?
We all have that, yeah.
Anyone? Beulah? Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. Please, his stuff's up there. If you want to keep up to date with Brett, make sure you follow him on Instagram and keep up to date with everything like that. Can you just flick back to the Fred
I will,
Hollows page as well, please, for us?
One thing about that, I did lock my accounts.
Oh, okay.
But reason why I had some gaslighting people, so now you've got to get through the gatekeeper.
And please, you know, $25, I think it's fantastic. It's Fred Hollows. I'm sure we all know who Fred Hollows is, and we'll try and get that shared out as well for you as well, because that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Couple of things before we go. I've got them here on my phone so I remember them. Ilford Orloff Awards, we are back. We are running for the 3rd year. 7th of April, we are having an info session. So if you have any doubts, any questions you want to know about rules, entry requirements, how things are, come along to that. It's all up on our Facebook page. It's at the State Library. It'll be in the newsletter as we go. Registrations are on Humanitics. Just like we've got numbers, we know numbers and stuff like that. Because on the 28th of April, entries will open. So we really want to see a good turnout of entries. I reckon we've got some good stuff this year. Entries are we're going to have a couple of print critiques, and then entries will close on the 8th of June. There are absolutely no extensions on that. 16th to the 18th will be the live judging. this year held at the State Library, and 24th of July will be the awards presentation, obviously held at the State Library. Moving on from that, yeah, we've got the thing. We've got an event coming up, we're working on it at the moment, we just want to save the date, Saturday 31st of May to the 1st of June. We are heading down south for a retreat in Bustleton. Please save the dates, we are working on the talks and what the format of what we're doing. We're going to have a dinner that night or food and a sundowner on the Saturday night. It's essentially you guys look after your own accommodation, we'll provide the rest. So start thinking about that, start looking at accommodation if you want to come down. It is a long weekend, so you know, accommodation might be hard to find if you leave it late. That's all from us, I think. Sam, you've got anything else to add? Any other committee members got anything else to add? For those working, we also we do run our accreditation as well, so please get a look on that on the website. All the information's on the All Off website for the competition, for the awards, and your Pro Photography website. Please have a look at accreditation if that's something you want to have a look at. Otherwise, we still have food. Yes.
In addition to the food, I should also mention, I'm not sure whether you all are aware, but there is actually a Pro Photography WA Facebook group, which is currently called Find, Recommend and Promote, or Find, Promote and Recommend. That's open to all members to join, and it's also open for non-members to join as well. We're kind of thinking of it being like a Facebook group community for PPWA and friends. So if you're on Facebook, and if you're regular on Facebook, and you want to basically ask questions of other peers or share experiences or similar things like that, if you're looking for an assistant or something, Ryan, I'm looking at you. So, obviously just
That's the place to do it, yeah.
Okay.
In addition to your page?
In addition to the Facebook group, yeah. So for example, we've got people ask questions about like marketing, use of social media and things like that. We've got people asking for assistance, like people who are basically just helping with the lights and stuff like that. It's basically open to any kind of discussion on a kind of like a professional
Just keep it civil.
level. Yeah.
Our main Facebook page is closed to commenting and other people, so that's why we created the other one, because we can keep it all on there instead. So
I've got a black biro that found in the eating room, the breakfast room. It's not good.
please come if it's an expensive one.
Can we just thank Brett?
Yes, please thank
And thank for all of you who registered, got a ticket, and then turned up. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.